What is up, my peeps? Welcome to the Joshua Smith GSD podcast, where I interview top entrepreneurs and people all over the planet that dominate their space. People that are committed to creating amazing lives and creating their dreams into a reality. People that truly operate their lives in GSD mode. They refuse to accept mediocrity. They are focused, they get results, and they get shit done. If you have not already, do me 3 quick big favors. First, go to my YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube, type in my name, Joshua Smith, or type in the URL youtube.com/Joshua Smith AZ, where you will be able to find all of these interviews streamed along with a lot of other free content that I create. I'm always posting. So please make sure to go on there and subscribe. The next 2 favors, go on to Facebook, follow me at Joshua Smith GSD, and follow me on Twitter at Joshua Smith GSD. If you're listening to this interview on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube, and you'd like to have these interviews automatically emailed to you, go to www.joshuasmithgsd.com, hit subscribe on the front page, enter your name, and email, and boom, you'll be on the list. Don't worry, we will not send you spam. I hate spam too. There's no BS, just awesome, amazing content. So, you guys, today I'm absolutely pumped up, absolutely stoked. When I think of people that fit the GSD mode lifestyle, this dude really could be the poster child. He's an absolute machine. He operates multiple highly successful businesses. He's a best-selling author, a speaker traveling all over the globe with the speaking engagements. And the dude's a beast in the gym, which we'll get into later in the podcast. He's been a huge mentor to me. I've been fortunate and blessed in my life, and I've had the opportunity to do a lot of one-on-one coaching with him and be coached by our guest here for over the past year of my life. And he's really inspired me. I've been able to learn so much from him and now consider him a great friend of mine. And today I'm honored to have Jon Cheplak on the show, my brother from another mother. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, buddy. I'm just honored to be here with you, and hopefully I can contribute to what you got going on, man. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, again, man, I know how busy you are, and I greatly appreciate it. So, thank you for taking the time, and man, the past 2 weeks, I know you've been all over the place, dude. It seems like you've been more in the air than on the ground, So, right before we hit the record button, I know on Sunday you're getting ready to leave again, and you're all over the place. So, how many cities and countries have you been in the past 2 weeks?
Actually, just with stopovers and planes, trains, and automobiles, I've been in 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I think it's in double-digit cities at this point in time, and about 25,000 air miles in actually just the last 10 days. 25,000 air miles. So, and my most recent, just up in Seattle, but just did a 1-week little speaking tour out in Israel with Remax Israel, and just did Seattle, and I'm off to New York for a week on Sunday. Just keep moving along the path, man.
Yeah, love it, man, love it. So, we're gonna get in heavily into the different businesses that you run and all of that. But first, let's kind of rewind the clocks. So you've accomplished so much. Again, from being a best-selling author to having extremely successful software company. You're one of the top leadership coaches on the planet, public speaker, health and fitness coach. You've had so many different successful ventures in life. But I know you didn't always start there. So kind of rewind the clocks and walk us through your journey of what led you to becoming an entrepreneur and kind of leading you down the path that you're on now.
Sure. I've got this amazing background, probably similar to yours, that is just the perfect pedigree to be, in this industry, the real estate industry. I was a bouncer in a teenage nightclub, and then when the club closed, I was the janitor, and then I'd leave there at about 5, 6 in the morning after cleaning up the club and drive underneath the Space Needle about a mile to a seafood warehouse. The orders would be there for the different grocery stores. I would pack the different orders into my truck, and I'd drive a route. I was doing about 110 hours a week, one of those things of highly committed and, going way back to when I was, 21 years old. I mean, I was working hard and going at it, and my mom pulled me aside and said, Well, I mean, I got to tell you this though. I tell her some of the stories of working at the T nightclub. I only got a gun pulled on me twice this week, and she heard that enough times and said, you've got a good work ethic. Why don't you try and sell real estate? And so I said, okay. And so I got into real estate, and I had the best training on earth. My mom was a business broker, and so I don't know if I'd even started shaving yet at 21. Maybe I was a late bloomer or something like that. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to walk into what she was selling were cocktail lounges and bars, and I'm going to go cold calling, and I'm this kid that's going to try and sell people's businesses. Okay, this is interesting. And so she handed me a Tommy Hopkins a ticket to Tommy Hopkins seminar, and I went to the seminar, and he said door knock. I lived in the Pacific Northwest. I bought rain gear, and I immediately started door knocking and didn't come back until I had hit about 200 to 300 doors a day consistently, hit the for sale by owners. Had my first, now here's what's ironic. My first transaction was a business. It was actually a tavern. I made a cold call. She gave me the phone book one day and said, you need to try businesses. And I went to the very first business in the underneath cocktail lounges and taverns. It was B&S Express up in the Federal Way area of Washington, and made the cold call and just asked them, hey, you want to sell? They said yes. Went out there. It was an owner contract deal. And we ended up having the buyer. My mom did, because that was her specialty. And I had a $13,000 commission the first 30 days. So I did math, Josh, and it was 13,000 times 12 is, wow, I'm going to be making 156,000 a year. Well, I got comfortable, and interestingly enough, about 6 months later, I had to hawk everything I owned to stay in the real estate business. We wouldn't have this conversation if I didn't take that 13,000 and blow it on things that were actually able to be taken to a pawn store to keep me afloat. And so I stayed afloat. I moved over to a residential company, and I evolved over time and built a business. And my best year closed about 100 transactions way back in the day. Average sale price $67,500. And yeah, we were doing big deals back then. And then I moved down to Las Vegas, and I'd been in the business about 4 or 5 years, and kind of stepped back, looked at leadership, and I thought, I think I can do better for some reason, and careful what you wish for, and all of a sudden I was a branch manager, and here's what I captured right away, is that leaders and agents do the same thing. We are in the human resource, human development, human attraction, human experience business. Agents prospect, they verbalize their value proposition, someone measures whether they're worth it or not, they follow up. Well, that's the same thing that leaders do, because if you have the people, my belief is this, and people can debate it all they want to, and yeah, you've got boutique companies that have maybe some higher per person productivity, but the bottom line is this: he or she with the biggest army wins in this industry. It's proven time and time again. So I got it real quickly. It was about recruiting, and the process of recruiting had to do with prospecting, which I wasn't afraid of. And so that evolved, and then after, a year or two at that company, a large company pulled me in, recruited me, and in that first year I took it from 1,000 transactions to 1,500 transactions. And I think a quick piece to point out is, okay, numbers are easy to talk about, but let's get down to the truth of it. The market was only up 13%. I increased the transaction count by 50%. So I was 37% ahead of the marketplace. I was bringing in experienced agents, did that for a couple of years there. And then as time went on, I got exposed to a company out of California, Prudential, California, Nevada, Texas at the time, with a gentleman who to this day I look at as my mentor. I mean, every single day there is something in my business that I share and transfer through. I'm a pass through to other leaders from what he taught me. I worked for Ed Kraftchow out there, and then got great results. We I think the first year we recruited 700 agents to the company. Year two, we brought in 1,000 agents, and started recognizing that people were real curious about what we were doing, and I thought, you know what, maybe I can take this. And when I say people curious, I'm talking about CEOs from companies across the country. And I thought, do I want to have a job or do I want to have a business? And I had a fabulous job, and I was working with, one of the best human beings on this earth to mentor me. And I went out and took the risk, and I wrote an article, and I still will post it. This proves, I mean, gosh, this was back in 2002. I wrote an article, or 2003, somewhere in there. I wrote an article called "It's Not About the Splits." Submitted it online, got inquiries from people, and from that point forward, from that little article, I started speaking, coaching, and training. And so, kind of fast forwarding, I've spent the last, 11, 12 years out on the road working with brokers, owners, managers, recruiters throughout North America and Europe in all aspects. I mean, I led out in the recruiting space because here's what I know. Number one, it's the most critical part of running a real estate organization. Number two, it is an area that every single organization, well, I think every single is a little bit definitive there, but it is a daunting task for organizations. And it was a skill set that I had acquired. I had really worked at mastering that craft. I still do to this day because it's ever evolving. And as time went on, then I took a look at it and said, I've got to support leaders in growing their capacity to grow a leader's, because a leader's number one excuse in the recruiting process is I don't have enough time, and I'm focused on these things and that things, and there wasn't really a system out there. And I looked back to my recruiting days, and I had my hit list in an Excel spreadsheet, and then I had Top Producer for my database management, and then I had another program that I used for my mass email programs. And so, reflecting back on all the different pieces, what I felt in my career as an actual recruiter, a general manager, etc., is I had all the parts to a Ferrari that were sitting on a garage floor, but I didn't put the Ferrari together. And so finally, I'd say, it was about 7 years ago, I took the parts to the Ferrari, and I'm not a techie guy. I mean, the last thing I was going to do was play in the software business, and I went over to Office Depot and bought 2 of the Post-it note flip charts, and I started drawing out the recruiting process, the experience. And one thing I'll share with everyone, it's really kind of cool. If you ever want to get creative, I know this. You can take 3 rows from top to bottom, from the ceiling to the floor. You put 3 rows of Post-it notes, of flip charts, and run them around the room. I had a couple bedrooms full of them. And I created the whole interaction, the interface of recruiting, and then I did some research online. And again, this was uncharted waters for me. I reached out overseas, found someone, partnered, and gosh, the real recruiter was birthed. We created a recruiting software program, so we brought that into the mix. And then as time evolved, going back to my roots of and my own personal discovery, along with what my mentor always reminded me too, is that it really is the human resource business. And I had this interest and passion around human behavior, and so I continued to study it. I continued to use it in the way that I did business, the way that I coached and consulted people. They got great results, and then I took some of my experiences. Sometimes I call them my series of misadventures, and decided that I was going to write a book. So through all of this, I moved out to the Big Island of Hawaii, lived off grid, caught my water from the rain, had 8 batteries running my house, and wrote a book. So all of a sudden, I was an author, and then through that time frame too, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, I really got into fitness. At that point, I was 43 years old, and was working hard and taking care of myself and eating well. I just knew that that was just a critical part of staying ahead of the game and just being healthy, simple stuff. And people started asking me questions about nutrition, and so I said, well, geez, here's an opportunity. So I went out and I got certified in nutrition, got certified in training people, and so then I started an online business, and now I've got got the coaching and consulting business we do, and then we've got the software program, published the book, which is really from a space of you know more of a spirit space, soul space, some of the areas that we all struggle with. And then I moved to the physical space, which was the personal training stuff. And so now we write nutrition plans and workout programs for people literally throughout the world. And here I am today, sitting playing in all these different arenas and having a great time. There you
Yeah,
have it.
I love it, man. It's such an amazing, crazy journey, and one thing that I love that you talked about was both in um when you started recruiting, it was hey, it's all about prospect. I got to go from the business, and it just sounds like, and maybe this was how you were brought up, but you get in the business at 21. You waited for nothing to come to you. You started door knocking 200 to 300 doors a day. It's like you've never been the guy that plays defense. Like you just go out there, you're on offense, right? So then you get in the recruiting space, you're out there prospecting like crazy. You decide you see a hole there in the leadership and that training element, and then you reached out to somebody across seas, and you're constantly reaching out to others, and not. I hear so many business owners today that talk about we want to create a culture or an organization where we attract everybody, and it's just you got to go get it. So I love that, and that's just a reoccurring theme I keep hearing through your journey here. So let's kind of talk about your real recruiters. So you're doing this. There's a lot of people out there that are maybe on this call, and a lot of people today in the information age that want to maybe go out there and create content. So when you say you reached out across seas, what was that path like? What did that entail? Um, did time frames, monetary? Just give us kind of an idea of what that looked like.
Sure. I had no experience in writing software. I knew what I wanted the experience to be for the end user because I was an end user, if you will. I recruited on a daily basis, even as a general manager, exec VP that was over, multiple offices in 3 states. I still, at that point, which was really cool, and I think something to point out for other CEOs too, is, don't remove yourself from the trenches. I think it's the biggest mistake you can ever make. You can tell people to do stuff all day long. No one will ever do what you tell them to do. But when you're shoulder to shoulder with them and you're doing it with them, it's like osmosis. It's automatic. I mean, there's no out. They're going to do it with you. But what I did is I knew that I needed to create it. I talked to a couple of people and they said, try some offshore companies. And so, I looked around, snooped around, and finally found a gentleman in India. And what we did was we took a look at the 3 silos. There was the design, there was the taking it to market, and then there was the programming. And I had the design and I had the taking it to market, and he was going to do the design or the programming part of it. And so we created a partnership, and the cool thing is that I did not have to invest financially. What he was going to do was, for his 1/3 ownership, was he was going to build the program based on my design, and then I was going to take it to market. And at that point in time, I'd already built my credibility in the recruiting space, and I saw that there really wasn't a tool out there. I mean, there were, many parts to the Ferrari on the garage floor, but no one had put it together. And so, it leads into something else we had talked about too. So I made this incredible, wonderful mistake of I'm going to build a software program, and I'm going to do it exactly how I want to because I know how to recruit. I didn't ask any managers or broker owners what they needed because, hey, I knew everything. Just ask me. Good one. And so we built something we thought was amazing, and in the first year, and I don't know if I ever told you this, we built it. I started pre-selling it because it's like anything, and we know each other very well and have become great friends. And you and I are the type of guys that we'll put something out there because we know we can deliver. Josh, that's just what we do. I mean, we'll put the vision out there, we'll declare it, and we'll work backwards on it and get it done. Well, software is a little bit of a different deal if you haven't played there. So I was selling software. I was selling a picture of how it was going to function, and I'd never written software before in my life. So in the first year, sold a bunch of it. People took it on when it was ready to launch, and I wrote checks back to the first 50 people that bought it because it didn't function. And so then we did the honorable thing. It didn't work. We had to take it apart. We had to rebuild it, and it was a great process. I guess I look back at it and it's unfortunate, but at the expense of some clients. But the beauty of it is many of the people came back and are still with me now. I mean, the people that said, "Listen, this isn't what we thought it was going to be," but because I did the right thing, I took responsibility for it. So we relaunched it, came back out, and now today, Josh, we've got probably 40% of the top 100 brokerage firms in the U.S. that are using the Real Recruiter, have used it for years. The number one independent real estate company in the U.S., Long & Foster, has been using it for many years. The number one company based on transactions in Canada has been using it for the last 12 months. And those are the big brokerages, but we've got startups and we've got mid-sized brokerage firms that are using it. And so that was the journey, and we have continued on a path, because the neat thing that I've learned about software is that it's yours the day you launch it for it to work. And then the moment it's launched, it's no longer yours. It's shaped by the users. It's getting your ego out of the way. It's constantly reaching out to people and getting their honest feedback, their input. And so here we sit, 6 years later, with a program that, certainly I'm very proud of and is so robust. And I guess the best confirmation that it's pretty good is the reputable organization that are using it, that is built on the intellectual asset of some of the most brilliant minds in real estate that have given us their feedback, given us their input. I have a full-time staff in India that's my staff. It's not vendored out now. We've got a partnership where we've got 24/7 customer service, and the experience is fabulous. It's just been a really, really neat thing, and we continue to build on it. So great lessons learned in it, and great results that people experience from it, and I continue to learn as I go through the process.
Yeah, and I happen to actually be a client on the system as well, and God, I think I've been with you on that system for about a year, and it's an absolutely amazing system that we're in every single day, operating heavily in every single day, and it's been an amazing recruiting tool. And one thing, I've used so many systems, like a lot of us have. I've been personally in entrepreneur now for 10 years, and God, I feel like I've tried I don't know how many hundreds of different systems. And one difference that I think that really separates your software from so many that makes it so successful. In a lot of our coaching and mentoring sessions, you've talked about this with me, it's not just that you don't have just this piece of software that's brilliant. You're constantly coaching and training your people on how to utilize it. You're constantly working webinars. I think a lot of people get into software development thinking, okay, I'm going to create this and then just get a bunch of users and generate all this passive income and be done. But it's that constant working, constant coaching. So kind of talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, what is the importance of that? If anybody's thinking about getting in the software game, with you being one of the best guys in your space on the planet that does this, the element of really, okay, you've got this product, now we got to teach you how to do it.
Yeah, so good. I'm glad you brought that up, because today what we tell people is it's a coaching and training program supported by software. And if you go back, and I don't know what the statistics were, and I don't want to misquote it, but Top Producer, which is a fabulous program that agents have used over the years, I think that there was a time when it was downloaded, you'd get the disc, that there was a huge percentage of them that after a year they'd survey agents, they didn't even take it out of the box. And so one of the things that we recognized from the outset of it is that we weren't going to sell, the program and sell it to you, but we're going to do a membership. And so, you've got this membership that's ongoing because we wanted engagement. But along with that membership, what we were going to do is we wanted people to apply the program. I didn't want to just sell them the program. I was a recruiter. I wasn't a software guy that wanted to leverage myself by the need that brokerage firms have to recruit agents. And so, hey, I'm going to create something like you so clearly articulated that, hey, here you go, and I can sit back. I was engaged in it because I know how important it was, and it's been a part of my life. Recruiting was a part of my life long before I got into this consulting thing. So we recognized from the outset, to get engagement, to get application, that it had to be a coaching and training program supported by software. So talking to anyone, no matter what silo of business you're in, you're real estate or outside the real estate industry, what I've learned, from experience, not observation, but from straight experience, is if you're going to build a software program, you must have ongoing coaching and training that goes with it. And the must comes down to the result. The result is our number one and number two users, the first two people that signed up for the program when I first launched it, are still with me today. And it's a monthly fee program. You don't just buy it and you're done. It's a monthly fee program that people pay ongoing. Anyone can give a 30-day out notice. And so what we've done is we've been able to support people in all aspects of running a brokerage firm, because certainly recruiting was what I came out with. That was the leading space when I looked at, okay, what's the messaging going to be? How am I going to approach the market as a consultant? And then, then the software that I built. But, the fortunate thing for me is I'd run a branch office, I'd run a region, I'd run a company, and I wanted to, the recruiting thing isn't just about recruiting. You have to be a great operator. You've got to be a great coach. You've got to run a great sales meeting. You have to, have great tools in the space available to agents. And then on top of it, from a running an organization, to attract people, you've got to be able to demonstrate that you're the most competent and relevant leader in the marketplace. So we were able to take, those strategies and tactics and systems of recruiting that we then put into a system, marrying the online with the offline. And then on top of it, when our leaders get an audience of someone, they're competent leaders who can talk about all aspects of the business, not just the doggone feature dump recruiting process that most people have used. I call it dinosaur recruiting. And so, the key piece that I would share with anyone, whatever, if you're going to do software, is have some sort of ongoing connectivity. And I don't mean just a check-in. I'm talking about ongoing value transference in the day-to-day operations that are even outside of the software that you're giving to people. For us, that has been a key part of it, and has also led to a lot more speaking engagements in consulting and one-on-one coaching because of that. I mean, that's the root of it. People get attracted to that piece, they engage and go, whoa, it's more than software. There's greater value I can get here. And so that's, how I would encapsulate, if I'm going to sit down and do create a software program, well, that's the model that I would do time and time again, because the engagement, the retention, and the results are wonderful.
Yeah, and then so with Real Recruiter, I mean, you're doing weekly leadership webinars, and every single webinar then's recorded. Now you've built up this enormous resource library. Now that you've been doing this 5-6 years, now you have 5-6 years each year stacking up 52 different weeks of content.
Yeah.
Which then I guess for other owners down the road, I mean, you can package that content and create other coaching products or platforms with that content.
Sure, it's the it's the constant repurposing, because here's the other neat thing too, and it's why I came forward is we had the traditional consumer, you had the traditional agent. Today and a few years back, we started transitioning to this internet empowered consumer. Well, you've got the internet empowered recruit. Well, then how do we interact and how do we work with them? Well, we have to come to understand their behavior. And then when we understand their behavior, we have to accommodate that behavior. Well, then we drill down to what are the behavior? Well, there's multi-channels and platforms. And so when we take a look at this content that we've created, it's exactly what you're doing too. You've got some people that love to read a blog. You have some people that love video. You have some people that love a podcast. And so now you've got this library. We're at about 300 hours roughly of video recorded coaching calls now back in the back end of that library. which we can repurpose and put on podcasts, and we can take and transcribe and put into written blog posts, in our Real Recruiter blog. I mean, there's so many things you can do with it, because here is the ultimate overarching objective, and it's why I'm here with you, because I just love what you're doing, man. Man, it's not about hype, and we're so great, we're so wonderful. It's all about just flooding the market with value and goodwill, and giving people more, then interacting with them, finding out, okay, so what you think? Well, I like that, but I'm interested in this. Okay, perfect. Because here's the beautiful thing. We get so caught up in believing that we've got to come up with some new great idea. No, the only great idea we have to have, see, the mistake that's made in business, I believe, is this, is I've got to have all the right things to say. And you know what? I think that a huge percentage of people have it backwards. No, I have to have the right questions to ask. And if I have the right questions to ask, I'm going to find out what's important to people, and they'll direct me where I need to go, and I'm going to be able to serve and support people at the highest level, and keep long-term relationships in business. And that's just, that's really what we do. And I know it's the same thing you do too, Josh.
Yeah, and being a user on the platform, I've had a lot of experience with. Okay, I've got 9 years of experience before utilizing the software, and a year on it. And for me, I'm not a large brokerage. I'm actually a real estate team, so there's a big difference. So for me, right now, for example, though, I have more agents wanting to join my team than we're able to even take on. And literally, there hasn't been one ask. It's literally just give. We're just giving value and having a positive impact on their life. So when they're frustrated with their current organization or the team that they're at right now, they're like, wow, this Joshua Smith cat's been having a positive impact on my life, helping me out, and I don't even know him. You become that front of mind awareness, that top of mind awareness. So it absolutely, Gary Vaynerchuk, talks about that in his book, jab, right hook of yeah, we got to give, man. So many people are still stuck on that ask, that hype marketing, and that ask, and not giving that content. So I love that, man. So I know. Okay, so you've got this software program, and I just want people to realize, that maybe want to go into this space, what it takes. Because okay, so now you've got this program, you've been doing it now 5-6 years. You're all over the planet. It's the most successful, the number one software system in its space. But how many years did it take? You talked about, okay, you launched it, all the profits that came in, you had to return those profits. How long were you out there having to, just hustle, dude, and grinding the phones? Because I know you're a phone guy, man. So I can just see in my head right now doing 1,000 dials, a week plus. That's probably a vast understatement there. But how long before it got to the point where you were profitable with something like this?
It took us about, with all the the mistakes, and trying to figure things out, still figuring things out today. I would say at about 18 months, it just took off. It got to the point where I was doing 12 webinars a day, and it was me. And I was, and this is the point, and I think this is the root of your whole vision of what you're doing. And I'll take the risk of assuming this is the work that it takes. I was the designer. I was taking it to market. I was our customer service guy. I was the support ticket guy. I was doing webinars, everything. And, I have my team back in India, but, we didn't have enough revenues to have the support thing going. And I was just juggling these balls. Just grinding it out. But at about 18 months, we hit it hard. But it came back to exactly what you said, is we just kept giving value to the market. I kept, we test things, and we test the increments of, do you send a drip email to an agent every 30 days? Do you send one to an agent in 21 days? Do you send one every 14 days? We came down and figured out it was every 7 days. And then we took a look at how many words in an email, and we analyzed and tested that. We tested subject lines. We just tested and tested and tested. And here's what was cool. As we learned those things, we started telling the market those things. People are like, why are you telling people? Because I want them to know that I know. So we started sharing with people, hey, I'd write blogs of here's what you need to have a drip email look like. Here's what a recruiting website needs to look like, because we've got the lead capture recruiting website on the front end of it with the fully integrated database management on the backside. So at 18 months, we hit crossover. And from that point forward, what I would say is we did a fabulous job, did whatever it took. Money was never the objective. It was always about the experience. Don't get me wrong, I'm in a for-profit business as you are, but we're both, and it's why two guys like you and I came together, is our principles and values are the same. I mean, in the end, if someone wasn't happy, here's your money back, all the way back from for the last year that you had used it. I mean, it was just all about wanting to create an experience for people. And we stayed in that space. We continue to stay in that space. And it just continues to grow dramatically. Just continues to grow dramatically. It looks like we'll be translating it in different languages here soon. So that gets exciting too.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. I mean, it's absolutely paying off big time, and the reason I wanted to ask that question is it's a trend I see in entrepreneurs, and I think the stats are not just in real estate, but entrepreneurship across the board. 90% of entrepreneurs are out within 5 years. Like they're just non-existent. They don't make it, and people go out there and quote that it was undercapitalization, but I think really it boils down to I don't want to say the unwillingness to hustle, but the unwillingness to hustle and really know how long you're going to have to hustle before the payoff comes. It's like, man, you might have to sacrifice 100 hours a week for the next 2 years of your life before you see a penny out of this. And going into it with that mindset, it's almost like if I could do it over, and not that I finished college. I went for 1 year, changed my major 13 times, and decided it wasn't for me. But if I could, but if I could do it over, like if I, I was just a guest keynote speaker to 650 seniors at a high school talking about the next level, and I didn't say exactly this because I didn't want to talk anybody out of their dreams of going to college. But if I could do it all over, dude, I would have saved the tuition money instead of paying to go to college. I would have went out and found the entrepreneur that I aspire to be like, the business I aspire to be like, and offer to sacrifice the next 4 years of my life working 100% free for them, 60, 80 hours a week, whatever I possibly could, to get the actual experience that I need to put in that hustle. And
Let me share this with you too, and I think it's something that people need to know. At any point in time when I was writing checks back to people, and didn't know how I was going to cover it much of the time. I mean, it was scary. It was dicey, very dicey. I could have at any point in time gone back and taken a job with the 200 to 250 grand a year salary plus incentive as an executive in many real estate companies, many, because the ability, the track record that I had in recruiting, and the profitability that I could generate. I mean, it's a skill that a lot of people don't have, and I had a track record, but I was just not going to. I was going to stick true to what I believed in. So it's like, you just don't quit. You don't give up. You get a picture. You have a commitment. You understand that everything along the way is contributing to your growth, and it all contributed to my growth. And boy, everything for me is about, we talk about productivity, we talk about profitability and all these spaces we're in, but what's it all about? For me, it's all about happiness and freedom. I mean, that's just, break it down to what's simple, to create an experience of happiness and freedom in life. And I couldn't imagine any different now. I mean, I just couldn't even imagine. Plus, I'm highly unemployable.
yeah, I love it, man. I love it. And with you talked about how with the recruiting success that you had, and then as the software developed, you started getting a lot of demand for coaching and leadership speaking, and today you're not just in real estate. I mean, you're speaking at gigs all over the planet, real estate related and not, about leadership training and coaching. And you just got back from Israel from coaching the top 100 people in their space out there. And so let's talk about leadership, for example. Today's everything's always shifting. So leadership today means something than maybe it did 10, 20 years ago. So what are the top three characteristics that you see? Top three qualities, characteristics that if you're a leader in your space, And I don't care what that space is, whether, maybe it is health and fitness, maybe it's you are in coaching and consulting, maybe you own a graphic design company. If you're going to go out there and lead others, because it's all the same, the product, if it's real estate, health, I mean, the product's interchangeable. Leadership's leadership. What are really the top three characteristics you think people need to really be focused on mastering and developing so they can effectively go out there and lead others in today's marketplace?
You bet, and you're right, and it was so great too. Coming back from Israel, here was the discovery, and I knew it, but again, let me call it the confirmation. Business principles are universal. They're not restricted by geographic boundaries. They're just not. Period. I mean, I had a group of people sitting there with two translators in a box next to me, and everyone in the crowd with headphones on. And so, it made an interesting experience. Here's the thing. Number one, life is about enrollment. We use the recruiting term because that's what we do in our industry, we do in business. But you look at every aspect of life, it's all about enrollment. So number one, what you have to do, agents are out enrolling people. A business owner is looking to enroll people. You open a dry cleaner, you're going to enroll people. You open a restaurant, you're going to enroll people. So the number one attribute in opening a business and functioning in life is to be in the enrollment space. That's the bottom line. And how do you enroll people? By creating an experience, because people don't believe what they're told, more so today than ever in the history of mankind. People don't trust brands and they don't trust marketing. They trust experiences. So number one, you've got to be an enroller. Number two, empower those that you lead consistently and replace yourself. So every day you wake up, and we've talked about this a ton, Josh, and you've learned it, and you continue to, I mean, you were doing it before I even started working with you. I mean, otherwise you'd still be out, doing, 10 listing presentations a day and then juggling buyers. I mean, you have replaced yourself. So the number two piece is replace yourself constantly. If I'm a leader and I go to work today, I have one job, replace myself. How do I replace myself? I transfer my skill sets that have been so generously shared with me from other great leaders or that I've acquired through trial and error. How can I share those with people and empower them? Going a little bit further underneath that, it was a great quote that my mentor shared with me. He would put me in positions at the last minute that were very substantial. In other words, spots and responsibilities that I had no clue what I was doing. And I probably used bad language one time or probably a couple times and said, heck you can't do that to me. And he'd smile at me. And he looked at me and he said this: I'm willing to risk the organization something going wrong in the short term based on you not knowing something for your long-term development as a leader. So what I would say, what I recognize and what I would suggest to anyone that's a leader is this: if you want power, give up control. If you want to grow your capacity, trust equals capacity. The more you trust the process, the more you trust the growth of people, the more you trust your ability to transfer skill sets and grow other human beings, the greater your capacity. The third piece is this, and everyone talks about it, but if I were to look at it, honestly, 99% and even corporate America doesn't do it appropriately, and that's called accountability. And people listening to this may say, well, wait a minute, I was in corporate America. It was top down. They held us accountable. That's not accountability. That's called condemnation. In other words, you're fired if you don't do this. And there's a great book you and I have both read, Change or Die. And it was interesting. They took Fast Company. I think Alan Deutschman wrote it, and Fast Company did a big write-up on it too many, many years ago. And it's one of those books that stands the test of time. And they really compared, if you threaten someone that if you don't do your job, you're going to die, they compared some health situations with people that had heart conditions. And 95% of them, they were told, if you don't change, you just had this heart surgery or or some sort of procedure, and you're in this condition, if you don't change your lifestyle after this procedure, you're going to die. And you know what they found out? 90 to 95% of the people went back to their old habits. And so they looked at the parallel and said, people, you just listen, it doesn't matter. They're not going to change. I mean, you can't force people to change. And so part of it is it's about the inspiration, the experience. And so we've got accountability wrong. Our society has been raised on guilt, and so now when people become leaders, they end up leading people based on guilt. They make them right or wrong, and that's not what you do. And so the talented, skilled leaders in today's marketplace, in any business, they know how to hold people accountable the correct way. They know how to have accountability in their company, and that's observing or noticing without judgment. So it's number one, you've got to be in the enrollment business. Number two, you got to constantly be replacing yourself and empowering those people that are underneath you, you're bringing up. You've got to bring leadership up. And the third piece is accountability the proper way. And I'll throw one other in there too. It's on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is people want to belong. People want to feel love and recognition. Acknowledgement is absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. So those are the key pieces when I look at any type of business, and especially in the real estate industry too, because if you look at the dynamics and the psyche of the real estate agent is about 80% or more of them are really from an emotional space. They're very an emotional being. And so, you've got to tap into people's emotions. Emotions are what get people to take action. They really do. And so you've got to connect with people's hearts as well as their head.
Yeah, man, and one on number two here, when you're talking about trust equals capacity, and one thing that I see so many leaders, entrepreneurs, they have such a difficult time giving up that control. For maybe multiple reasons. They feel like maybe if their people become too good, then I don't know, maybe they're gonna go open up their own business, leave them, become their competition. Or and your mentor was willing to take that risk, but a lot of entrepreneurs are like, look, I can't take that risk. I'm not willing to take that risk. So when you have somebody in that position, what do you advise them on a deeper level? What do you coach them through when? Because that's I know for me in my business, man, I was stuck at the same production, 40 million a year in sales for 4 years straight, and it was just because of that. It was because I wasn't willing to give up oversight over a few accounts, and until I was got to the point where I was willing to risk that oversight to take it to the next level and grow, which everything turned out amazing. My business ended up doubling in the next 12 months. But I was stuck, and it took so long to come to that realization. And even though I had people telling me that, it was just hard to let go. So, what do you really coach on that? For people that do have that, because man, trusting others and giving up that control is so tough.
Sure. Well, the first thing we do is we take a look at patterns, and ironically, my book is Interrupt the Pattern, and the patterns that we continue. I have them look back at, okay, here's where you were, here's where you are, here's where you were and are in between all of that. Nothing has changed, but the one common denominator is you. Show me a great company, I'll show you a great leader. Let me give you the basis of it. It's having the guts as a consultant who, is based on the fact that, I could be fired at any time. I mean, I'm out there on my own, being willing to tell the truth to a leader and being willing to challenge them. And the interesting thing is when you come to them with the truth, instead of so many times, you watch leaders in a spin cycle trying this new strategy, this new tactic, or this new tool. It's like they're continuing to chase this magic pill, and the reason they chase the magic pill is no one's been honest with them. And so for me, it's being totally honest. And one of the big questions I'll ask them though is, what's your exit strategy? That's the big one. What's your exit strategy? And what a question, and this comes back to too, Josh, it's not what we tell people, it's having the right question. And that's the right question, because when we ask someone a question that takes them out of the current space and time they're in, it puts them in a superior advantage space. they can step away and look back. And it's so tough. It's why a guy like, people look at you, people look at me. I have coaches. You don't need a coach. You bet I need a coach. I need someone that's removed, someone that can step away. So the challenge in it is you've got to get them to step away from it, away from where current space and time is, the pressures of today's operation, saying, what about tomorrow? What's your exit strategy? And typically with the exit strategy question, we start some awareness. Then the next question I'll ask them is tell me all the different times that you failed along the way. You're a successful businessman. Yes, I am. Great. So tell me about all the failures along the way that you've survived through that contributed to where you're at. Let's list those down. And they start talking about it. And a lot of times they get it right there and go, oh, I get it. And so I just leave them in the space. So here's what you get to do. You get to think that you can pull a rabbit out of the hat and use some invented process that people are miraculously going to just step in, and you don't have to take any risk, and there's not going to be any failure. And good luck. Let me know how that turns out, but I kind of know how that play ends. Or what you can do is take a look at yourself, look in the mirror and say, oh, wow, this is how I got here. And the way someone else is going to get here is by stumbling and making some mistakes within my organization. And so, you know what? I've got to take that risk. And, does it work all the time? No. A lot of times you send people off and they come back later and go, well, you were right. And, I don't need to say I told you so. I just kind of jump into, okay, so now can we work in this capacity? What's the position going to be? What's the expectations of that person? What's the time frame of it? What are you, a question I'll ask sometimes, how do you reward failure? And failure is a tough word because, I don't know, result's a result. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know if it's good or bad. A result's just a result. But just for context purposes, asking a leader, how are you going to reward failure? And it's like, oh, well, I don't understand that. Well, here's what you got to understand is you got to reward failure by allowing someone to self-discover what took place and what they can do different, because here's the reward that takes place. The person that self-discovers it will grow and learn from it. They get a reward from that so-called failure. You, instead of churning through another employee and going out and taking the time and the money to bring someone else new in, okay, you get the reward of actually growing a human being, taking them through a path that you've gone through, a process you've gone through to get you where you're at. And in turn, the leaders that are willing to do that grow their organizations. And I see it today. You look at companies that have all the right systems in place, Josh. I mean, and a great brand and great, just everything's right there. But let me tell you something, the owner is just so on top of everything. They're never going to grow beyond 100 agents. They won't. So, in the end, it's a choice.
Yep, absolutely, man. I love it. I know, and it's made a huge impact on my world. So something that you said in the beginning that I kind of want to touch base on. In the beginning of the podcast, you talked about working every day at mastering your craft, and you look at a level where you're at right now. I mean, the top guy on the planet at what you do in your space, and you're working every single day to master your craft. I mean, I know you and I are texting sometimes at 2 a.m. Dude, you got to check out this book. Do this. I mean, you're constantly working on that self development. I think you
Yeah.
and I both come from that same space that you're either growing or you're dying. There's no in between. There's no such thing as stability. So how important is mastery? What does that look like? And what does that look like for you? And then, people that you're consulting, that you're working with out there, what do you advise them to work on their mastery? Because, a lot of people think, oh, mastery is getting good at the job that I do in my business, and not improving their skills when they're not working in their business. So, kind of give us the again what it looks like for you, and then how you consult and would advise our listeners and other entrepreneurs to work on their own mastery.
Sure. Well, and I'll take you back to, because we had these conversations too leading up to this call we were going to do, is, what are some of your biggest failures? And one of my greatest failures was the belief of growing myself professionally, but not bringing myself along personally. and that unwound in my life dramatically, big time, and it was a great experience. I learned from it, but I think that the key piece is this: is you've got to step outside of. See, here's the deal. I ask this question all the time. Why don't we do what we want to do, need to do, should do, know how to do to create the life that we want to have? Because you know what? We all know. We all know. I don't think we need to learn more. I think we need to do more. And so here's what I would say, for me, but also as I coach people. And it's interesting as I look at, the time I spent in Israel, 2 days. Day one was with CEOs. Day two was with the top 100 real estate agents in Israel. Okay, and so you know what? I would say that 60-70% of it, Josh, was human behavior based. The rest was real estate. And so what I would suggest to anyone is, and you and I exchanged books. We talk, the books we exchange on willpower, on habits, and we're doing it to better understand ourselves. So for any individual that wants to grow and continue to grow, here's the really cool thing. Many people are depressed. Many people are unhappy in our world. And the reason being is because they're in conflict, because we're hardwired. One of our greatest needs that was hardwired into us was to grow, period. It's proven. It's been tested, okay? And so to grow, we have to understand better. We have to understand why I'm functional. We have to understand what about me is dysfunctional and what I can do about it. So, when I take a look at the books that I've read, and I've seen a bunch that you read too, I think we're more on the balance of reading books of how human beings behave, this human being. And then when I can understand how this human being behaves, there's sure, we're all different. But then when we start to understand human behavior, what happens is we can contribute to the growth of people, which is our number one responsibility on this earth. It's why you and I are on this call. It's your vision for this whole GSD mode period is to grow human beings. And so to be able to do that, we must first grow ourselves. And we come back to this happiness and freedom. I declare that's what I want. Well, you know what? It's what we all want. If we stripped it all away, we're all doing it for happiness and freedom. Well, you know what? The best way to gain happiness and freedom is to gain knowledge constantly. If there's action steps around that knowledge, implement it. Find out what worked, what didn't work. Take what didn't work, shift it, implement it again, and then share it with other people. And I don't know, last time I checked, little sarcasm here, the shares of information that gets results are paid very well. Now, again, the basis of what I do isn't about the money. Yeah, I'm in a for-profit business. I have success. But what it does, it's a vehicle to that happiness and freedom. So you just have to, because it comes back to where you started. You're growing or you're dying. Well, you're also creating, and there are many people that are dying. So why I do the work that I do is because I just want to, life's amazing. Every moment that we have is an opportunity to experience something just absolutely amazing if we accommodate that one need that we have inside of us, and that's to grow. Well, when you're not growing, you're in internal conflict with yourself, and you're not even aware of it. You look at depression, you look at, all the ailments that I think continue to be created. There'll be some new ones that are created tomorrow, I guess. Everyone needs a new diagnosis, and I'm not here to minimize the realities of some things that people go through, but I think there's a lot of things that we don't do and take action that can really change our life. And that number one piece is to feed your brain, your spirit, and your soul nutrition. You feed your body nutrition so it can function. Well, guess what? The brain needs nutrition. Your spirit needs nutrition. Your soul needs nutrition. And then when you feed it that, what happens is you become absolutely inspired. You're excited, and you can't wait to tell people. Because you know what? The other piece that we have is, in the end, I think we're all rooted in good, and we want to see people experience good. And when you've got, and I know it's you too. when good things are happening, man, I want other people to have it too. And you do it by constantly growing yourself, period.
Yeah, there's a stat out there that shows that the average CEO reads 60 books a year. Your average, Fortune 500 company CEO reads 60 books a year. Your average American reads one. So people bitch, moan, and cry about, oh, dude, this damn CEO on Wall Street's making, 15 mil a year, and I'm over here making 40 grand a year, and they bitch and whine about it. I'm like, well, dude, the guy's doing 60, 70 times the amount of work, bro. He deserved it. you know um and one thing that I always talk to my teammates about in my organization is I became a huge Jim Rohn buff. 23 years old, sort of following Jim Rohn heavily, and one of his quotes is like, hey, the day your life changes when you start working more on yourself than you do in your job. And so at that point, that's when I took my self-development. Before I was 23, I don't think I really even read a book, dude. I just would look for
No.
the movie or look for the cliff notes. Um, that year, I just went hardcore. I was committed. I'm like, dude, I'm going to read 2 books a week, every single week, no matter what. Get this done. Focus on my self development. Which was crazy. Was the tasks I was doing in my business didn't change. They were the same tasks, but I went
Hmm.
from that next year, I went from $280,000 in revenue to over 1 million. And the task didn't change, but it was the person doing the tasks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is about developing yourself, and in the market you're rewarded based on the value you bring to the marketplace. So if you want to make more money, if this is about money, you've got to increase your value that you bring. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Yeah, I love that, man. And you talked about feeding, and so let's kind of get into this, right? So your input can never exceed your output.
Right.
Or I'm sorry, your output can never exceed your input. So that's why we see professional athletes, for example, 85% are friggin' bankrupt within 2 years because they don't know how to handle it. They don't have the mental capacity for it. That faucet stops. So you got to feed your mind. And you and I share this passion with our physical health and not just our mental health,
Mhm.
but taking care of your body. And I mean, dude, I mean, I know you're I mean, I don't know how many you doing 2 days, maybe some days 3 days in the gym. You're hitting it up. Your biceps or your arms are bigger than my thighs. I mean, you're a beast in the gym, dude. I hope you don't kill me for saying this, but yeah. Anybody that follows you out there would never be able to guess your age because um, because you're such in incredible shape. But you're 48 and you look like you're a college linebacker, dude. So you're taking care of yourself. You're in there. So let's talk about that though, because it's all intertwined, man. It's
Mhm.
we've had these conversations before, and you're like, man, if I just get up and I hit my morning routine, so it's you know. Input the right knowledge into my mind, hit the gym, like I'm guaranteed to have a great day. So let's
Yep.
kind of talk about your health and fitness, what that looks like, for you personally, the importance of that, and then kind of dive into like what is your routine, your daily routine.
Sure, sure. Well, the purpose underneath it is like you said, is that it's interesting. There's so many things that can make us feel good that aren't good for us, and the neat thing is that there's great chemical reaction that takes place in your body called endorphins when you work out, and I know when those are flowing through my body and they're not based on whether I worked out or not. My number one objective is to feel good every day. If I feel good every day, I'm rolling. I liken it to what we call the grand trilogy. And the grand trilogy is mind, body, and spirit. And what I know is that, all three aren't clipping perfectly at all times, but, if there's one that's going really, really well, there's this thing that I call the spillover effect that takes place. And so, and especially when you look at people's bodies and they'll make this physical identification. But the interesting thing, man, the outcome of what shows up physical is purely mental, big time, big time. I mean, I work with people, I write nutrition plans, and when they start getting down to it, they shared, hey, here's my objective, here's what I want to get, and they start going, whoa, and I'm talking about highly successful people. I mean, and so it challenges your mind on a daily basis to put the right fuel in, the right amounts in, to not use it as a filler. So I want to feel good every day. Number two, I want to be a great example to my children. I mean, that's just a responsibility that I have. The third thing is, man, I love life, and I want to live a long time, and I want to be healthy, and I don't want to be in the doctor's office. And what we've done as a society. I've got great friends that are registered nurse and doctors. Is we've made we've made doctors royalty. And so what we do today as a society is, we abuse our bodies. And I went through it. I got sober 6.5 years ago. I mean, I did it for many years. I mean, that was a big inspiration for me of, whoa, I need to make some changes. And the nice thing, to keep putting on that, you talk about, where I'm at and my condition, how I look today, is, man, our bodies are amazing. We can reverse engineer them. I mean, you can go from where you're on death's doorstep to putting the right nutrition in. I mean, we can heal ourselves, and, it just spills over to all aspects of our life. The other piece for me is showing people where they can go. You and I both, what we do, we have a privilege. We're leaders. We get the privilege to stand in front of people and be an example to people and share with people. And I just think with any privilege, it's just my belief, we have a responsibility. I mean, I have a responsibility to not just stand up there and tell people, oh, here's how you need to do your business. You need to do this and that. But then, I'm not taking care of myself. I mean, for me, no judgment on anyone else, but for me, that's hypocritical. It just is. And so that's the other accountability piece there, is I've got this privilege to stand in front of people, to run an organization, and the life coaching too, to run their life at an optimum level. Doggone it, I mean, I've got to walk that talk every single day. So it's the leading by example. What's my routine look like? Actually, right now I'm hitting, I'll do a 2-a-day, if I go in and just do cardio, and then I'll go in and do the weight training part later. But right now, with my schedule as it's working, I stick around. I'll be 49 in September, about 6'2", 225, and I'm sitting about 9% body fat. And I still eat, I mean, you see it, I still eat pizza and ice cream and cookies. But what I did is, I think one of the biggest failures in our society is that, we're not educated on nutrition. I mean, I think personally, you take a look at all this, is that I think everyone should be certified nutrition. I mean, the results that would take place in the sicknesses that would go away, the mindset of people that would change dramatically, the productivity, the happiness, just from being healthy. So I'm usually, I'd say about on average, if I were to look at a typical week, I'm about an hour and a half a day. Now, I used to, do the 2 and 3 a days, and that was because I didn't understand. I had to continue. It was trial and error. I had to educate myself. I had to learn more of how, when to eat your larger portions, and which is naturally right after a workout. It seems simple. Everyone knows those things, but it was learning how to train, understanding heart rates and different specific workouts that are going to have a longer lasting effect. For example, people they want to do the cleanse, or they want to do a juice diet, or all these different contraptions. They just want to be, excuse the expression, but this is for guys and girls. This isn't attacking women. I mean, I have great respect for women. My mom is certainly my number one person I look up to, raising two little boys as a single mom. But they do the cardio bunny thing, and they think they're going to jump on the cardio thing. Well, here's what's going to happen. You get into a cardio trap, because what people have to take a look at is, people think that working out, that hour or half hour, hour and a half you spend, that's the time when you lose weight. That's the time when it all goes down. And yes and no. And let me give you the no. The no is the fact of when you're resting, the 23 hours away. See, if I'm just doing cardio, I'm not building muscle. Well, why is muscle important? And women will say, oh, I don't want to be bulky. Well, ladies, you don't have enough testosterone to look like a dude, so don't worry about it. We've all got muscle. When we're resting, it takes 3 times the amount of energy to feed a muscle as it does fat. So watch this, simple science. Gosh, if I flip my body composition and I have more muscle content than fat, when I'm resting, my metabolism is going to run at a higher rate. It's going to require more energy. It's going to burn more. And so what we have to take a look at is, okay, so how do I work out? I work out intensely. I keep my heart rate up, but I've got to build muscle. because what happens is this, is when we train our muscles take with weight training, it takes longer. See, I do cardio, the recovery period's a little bit after I'm done working out, and it stops. Well, when I'm breaking down muscle, the muscle has to be fed, the muscle has to recover. I'm still working and recovering when I'm not working out any longer. So, it's understanding those two pieces. Otherwise, I just got back from Israel, and if I were to post, Josh, everything that I ate, no one would believe me. And I gained like 3 pounds. And, I didn't get all my cardio sessions in. The reason being is because I get that you've got to build muscle content. And so, from a routine standpoint, I'm at about an hour and a half a day. My routine is this dual purpose. And here's my suggestion to anyone. If someone came to me and said, John, I have 30 minutes a day to work out, that's it, and I want to lose weight, 9 out of 10 people would say, I'm going to do cardio. And I would say, you're all wrong. I would have that person lift weights for 30 minutes, and I would have them get a dual benefit from it. Number one, building muscle, as I've clearly articulated the advantage of that, as we've already shared, okay? And the recovery part of it, because, see, muscle content is your metabolism on-off switch. So I'm going to build muscle, so I've got that benefit. Well, why don't I do this? Since I've only got 30 minutes, I'm not going to rest in between sets, so I'm going to keep my heart rate at a fat burn rate during my workout. Whoa, I don't have to go do, as much cardio. And so, what happens there is you don't have to put in the time. You're not going to rebound the moment. See, all the cardio bunnies, they stop doing cardio, boom, that weight comes back on. All the people that are doing these juice cleanses and all that type of stuff, if you don't have a muscle building program, that's why America lives in the yo-yo diet world. And it's just an understanding. It's just an education. So, what I would share with people is lift weights first, build muscle. Women like shape. Well, muscle gives you shape. People get worried about, well, I've got this loose skin, and I've worked with women that were, they had the appointment, and I've got the pictures on my nutrition website. She was going to go in and get liposuction. And I said, no, you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to have good nutrition for 12 weeks. And let me share some simple science for you. So you've got loose skin. Well, put muscle in the body, and it will expand the skin out. And she's amazing. She's 45 years old, top real estate agent here in town, looks absolutely amazing. So, keep it consistent. It's a discipline that will spill over, and you're going to be healthier, and you can take in naughty food, man. I love naughty food. It's just, it's simple stuff. You're going to live a longer life, and you know what? Here's the nice thing. See, I believe in living a preventative lifestyle instead of a reactionary lifestyle, and that's the ultimate choice. Every day I'm living in a preventative space, and it just makes life a lot easier and a lot less expensive.
Yeah, man, and I don't want the listeners to have the wrong idea. You're eating clean, grass-fed beef and your greens, and
Yes.
yeah, you're eating ice cream, and I see your posts all the time, where you're having that, but those aren't every meal. It's probably what 80-90% of the time it's clean, and then you can
Yeah,
cheat the
good
other
point,
20%.
Josh. If you can stick to 85%, if you can stick to your workout program, boom, 100. And you eat clean 85% of the time and do the right type of training, you are good to go. And yeah, I post, if I posted all my meals, because you take a look at it this way, in a week's time frame, I do 42 meals. So when you start looking at it, I can eat six naughty meals a week, and no problem. I'm good to go. So yeah, you've got to do it about 85% of the time and stick to a good workout program. Definitely.
Yeah, love it, man. And so let's talk for a second about energy management. So probably the number one question I get from people is like, dude, you how do you have so much energy? You get up at 3:30 in the morning, you grind all day, you do all this, you operate multiple businesses, you get home, you've got 3 little kids, you spend ton of time with them, spend time with your wife. You go to bed, whatever, you get 5 hours sleep, you get up and you do it again, and you've done it, for a decade. And people are, they think like I'm a freak, and it's like, no, it's all intentional. I mean, I eat a certain way. I don't eat
Mhm.
processed foods. I eat a certain way. I take certain, medium chain triglycerides, for example, with every single meal to give myself that brain clarity, that mental clarity, put myself
Mhm.
into REM sleep quicker to have. I mean, it's everything's intentional, but the energy allows you to operate at such a higher level. And when we talk about it all tying together, when we're talking, because some of the entrepreneurs, real estate agents, other entrepreneurs out there listening, it's like, well, what the hell do I care about your health and fitness and working out? And you touch on this, really, you can't affect one without affecting the other. It's the spillover. I mean, you get in better shape, you're gonna have more energy, you're gonna be more effective, you're gonna have more confidence, and all of that. So kind of let's talk about that a little bit. Your energy management. What are some things that you do for that? Because I know, I mean, you go, dude. I mean, we always joke about it, but there's times you and I are texting back and forth at 2 in the morning, and then again at 6. I mean, just all day. I mean, you're just going, going, going.
Yeah, well, I think it's like you said, it's you can put unleaded fuel into your car, or you can put super unleaded. And that's number one. I mean, how are you fueling the engine? Number two, it's simple stuff is you're going to get tired if you're an athlete trains for an event. Well, they train for an event by doing whether it's running, it's something to keep their heart rate up. Well, guess what? Their cardiovascular system is up running at a high rate, and they're ready to go. So those are the simple pieces to it. Put clean fuel in, exercise so that you've got that continual energy. But I think that really though, Josh, what it comes back down to though is because I've seen people that do that and still be in a funk and be in a dark space is that I think it goes beyond that. And I think it goes into your spirit. And part of your spirit though too is I mean, here's what I learned. Have an open mind, question everything. Have an open mind and question everything. For example, and I've seen people post on our stuff all the time. You need 8 hours of sleep. Yeah, I know. I read that book too. You need 7. I read that book too. Don't listen to. I mean, listen, but you know what? Don't believe everything that you're told. Question it. Test it. We're all different. And here's what I'll promise you: is this is at the end, if for me, quite honestly, energy management with the simple things that we're talking about here, exercising regularly, clean fuel, have a freaking purpose that is so inspirational, so exciting to you that you can't wait. I mean, I lay my head on my greatest challenge of getting to sleep is I'm so excited about what's going to take place tomorrow. And that's 7 days a week. That's my greatest challenge. And so I think, go inside your spirit and your soul and take a look at, what are you doing right now? Are you happy where you're at? And then that'll take me a little bit further too. Are you happy with, no, I don't like my job. I don't this, I don't that. Okay, great. Change. I can't. Well, the biggest reason people can't change a job or the situation they're in is because they're focused on things, and their things, I call, they're called possessions. The reason they're called possessions is because they possess us. And so, don't get caught up in things, get caught up in experiences. And if you get caught up in experiences, you're not going to be caught up in possessions that possess you, which I ultimately call trappings. And so, make sacrifices in your life. You don't need to have this. You don't need to have that. You and I are two guys, we don't have TVs in our house. I mean, just the simple sacrifices in life. I mean, those things, that's an energy drain. I mean, if you think watching that doggone TV and the stuff that goes across the line is helping your energy, I'm sorry, you're wrong. I mean, you're just wrong. Put your nose in a book. I mean, energy comes from mindset, feeding your mind, feeding your spirit, feeding your body, and exercising your body, and having a purpose and playing where you're at. And again, what I want to say to you is this: is that it's all about happiness and freedom. And here's what I can just share with anyone. I mean, things aren't going to give you happiness and freedom. They're not. But if you find a purpose, believe me, you're gonna have more things show up that you never even could have imagined that will inspire you to grow beyond your wildest dreams.
Yeah, and I think that's just one of the huge issues right now with the way our society is just kind of formed, man. Is you have more people today designing their grocery list than they ever do their life plan. You know, they spend more time designing their vacation
Wow.
than they ever do their life. So people, really have no idea what the hell they want. So when you talk about finding a purpose, they have no clarity on what they want out of life. They just sleepwalk through life, just get through the day, never get from it, and that's why they enjoy. That's why it's TGIF, dude. Like, what the hell is that, bro? You know what I mean?
Right?
It's I think it was
And Monday sucks.
yeah. I mean, I don't remember if it was Seth Godin or who, but he was he was working at some resort, and people were like, oh, I feel so bad that this guy's got to work on vacation. He had I believe it was Seth Godin, but then he had this quote of man, I feel, they made that comment, and they kind of pitied him, and he overheard him, and he thought to his head, man, and that's the way society is. But like, why go out there? Why not just go out there and create a life that you don't need a vacation from? And yeah, I love that, man. So and I know we're I got several more questions I want to ask, and I know we're going long here, so I want to make sure I get these in. So I want to talk to you about your book really quickly, because we've talked a lot about a little bit about health and fitness, a lot about business and your software company and your coaching companies and all of that. Now your book though, and it's an absolutely amazing book. It's a must read for everybody. It's not just for entrepreneurs. Really, is nothing about business. It's for everybody. It's a must read for everybody. So let's kind of talk about really about your book. Really what it's about, and what people can gain from it, and also where they can find it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it was, and I think what's important, and I watch you, we both do this. We're very transparent about where we came from, and we don't forget that and remember it. And I think what happens, gratitude's a great word, because if you pull the G and the R away, there's this word inside gratitude called attitude. And that's the greatest driving force for me, is waking up. You can have commitment and motivation and inspiration, and those things require a lot of energy. Gratitude doesn't require a whole lot of energy. Actually, gratitude gives you energy. And so part of that is remember where we came from. And I had spent up until about 40 years old, it was all about surface things. I was caught up in surface things, and I had this amazing pattern that I continued to repeat. Things would go good, I self-destructed. Things would go great, I'd self-destructed. And everything was based on talent. There was no substance underneath it. I read a book to get the knowledge so I could just regurgitate it. Nothing was really ever internalized. And I all I wanted to do was develop skills so I could look good, sound good, play the part. All my decisions in life were based on the car I bought, the house I bought. Everything that I did was based on what you thought. And what I ended up doing was battling with alcoholism. And 6.5 years ago, I got sober. And the neat thing and I don't care whether it's alcoholism or you have a problem with shopping or porn or whatever it may be, none of them are. You're not a bad person. What those are is they're fillers. They're a medication for a broken soul, is ultimately what it was. And so I was this guy that continued to, I'd do great, and then boom, I'd self-destruct it, and I'd do great, and I'd self-destruct it. I'd find myself in these same spots, and then so when I decided to get sober, I didn't have much of a choice. I was on death's doorstep, literally. Can't exaggerate that one. I knew that I was fortunate enough to run into someone that said, it's not about the alcohol, and if it was shopping, if it was whatever it may be that you're addicted to, it's not about that. It's something in your soul and your spirit. And so you got a pattern, and you need to break it, you need to interrupt it. And so I went down a very deep path. One of the things that three of my favorite books that I still read, and I call them biblical informed, because I know that the Bible, people reference back to it continually, and with the Heart of the Soul by Gary Zukav, with The Shadow Effect by Debbie Ford. I mean, her fabulous book. I mean, I'm constantly referencing back to those spaces. I went and spent time with Debbie Ford, may she rest in peace, in New York for 3 days, who wrote that book with Marianne Williamson and Deepak Chopra, so I could come to understand me and get out of these patterns. And everyone that's on this call has got their self-destructive patterns. It's just a matter of people have decided to interrupt them. And so I spent time with Gary Zukav, who wrote The Heart of the Soul, spent time with her. Haven't had the opportunity to meet with Paul Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist, but so I went down this deep path of personal growth, and one of the things I recognize is, hey, I'm not alone. I mean, I'm not alone. We've all got our struggles. And so what I did is I took an aggregation of my journey, the teachings, and then my guide, Amma, who's worked with me and still works with me and coaches me in areas of my life, and it's how to get real with yourself, how to take responsibility, interrupt the pattern. It's getting us to evolve to our highest self, and our highest self is this. Our highest self is taking responsibility for absolutely every single outcome in our life, and it is the most challenging thing for us. I mean, we as a species, I just don't know that we're evolved enough to really get that piece. I still have to work on it on a continual basis. So Interrupt the Pattern, which is the book, available on Amazon, and it's also in Kindle form, and it's also available on my website, interruptthepattern.com, is getting people to take a raw and real look at ourselves, the condition we're in, the space we're in, looking at our past that shaped us, and understanding that it's not our story that we lean on, it's just our history that shaped us. Taking us even further to understand that the greatest conflict that human beings have is the one every single day, is that we spend more time every morning putting on a costume and a mask and reciting a script that will be accepted by society, which is totally in conflict because it's not who we are. We're not living as our real self. So a bulk of our society, and I did this for years, every decision was based on what everyone else thought. And so what it gets us to take a look at is, wow, I'm not living for me. I'm living for everyone else. And deep down underneath that, I'm in conflict with myself. And so what we do is we take people through a process of looking at, where are the patterns where you're repeating history again, over and over again in a negative way. And I use, the great examples of my misadventures that have certainly shaped me over time, and the processes that I went through. I take people through actually owning those experiences, identifying them, and then I think the big piece in getting away from the conflict is we have our dark and our light. We all do. Everything has its duality, and getting people to recognize and embrace their dark as much as their light. A great example that Debbie Ford used when I'd spent the 2 days with her, and she's author of the Shadow Effect, is she said, most of us live our lives, all of us really, until we discover this, standing in a swimming pool waist high. And imagine there's a bunch of beach balls that we have that are blown up. And so we get two of them and we put them underwater, and our two hands can hold them underwater. And those beach balls signify, they're a symbol for our darkness, the things that we don't want people to see and know about us. And we live our life in resistance. Well, the problem is we don't just have two things about us that are dark that we don't want people to know. We have so many things. We're afraid people will judge us. We want acceptance. And so we live our life just like that. What is it? It's that one game at the fair, where those guys are bouncing out of the thing and you're hitting the hammer to try and knock them all down. Well, we're doing that with our darkness, hiding, till eventually it all just blows up in our face because we can't hold the beach balls underneath the water. Hold a beach ball underwater, let it go, boom, it shoots up. And so then we have these dramatic experiences that happen in our lives. Well, what I move people to is this space of humility, vulnerability, and transparency. And you know what? Let those balls float on the water. Look at them, embrace them. And when we embrace that side of ourselves, we're aware of it. We're not resisting it, because it goes back to, the problem with cliches, Josh, is if you're not real conscious, a cliche is a cliche. But if you're very conscious, you really take a look at it. That which we resist persists. We've heard a million times. Well, if we keep resisting that part of us that we don't like and we keep hiding it, it's going to show up every single day. So we want to move people to accepting ourselves as we are. And there is no greater freedom than when we become true with ourselves. So that's the focus of it. And I take people again through my life experiences, my challenges, a small part of the book, but the biggest part of the book is how to work through that space and move to our most authentic space. And the really neat thing about that is the people that will show up in your life and you start living that way is just absolutely amazing. The right people show up. I think the challenge with it though is everyone's so in conflict, but if I start living this way, these people will go away. Yeah, well, that's a gift. You don't need those people around you. You need the people around you that are going to challenge you, that are going to expect more from you. So, that's our hope, and we've had some really great feedback and built some great relationships and been able to work with a lot of people in a coaching space on a deeper level after they've read the book. So it's rewarding stuff.
Yeah. So, and again, so you said it's on Amazon. Interrupt the pattern. Name of
Yep,
the book.
Amazon, and then they can also purchase it directly at interruptthepattern.com.
Yep, love it, man. And the cool thing about the book is it's really for, it doesn't matter if you're a teenager or if you're 85 years old. It's for everybody. And what's sad, and we've talked about this experience that I've had when in my younger years, is I worked in 2 years at a hospital on the hospice floor. I was a nurse's aide on the hospice floor for 2 years, and I spent a tremendous amount of time with people on their deathbed. 12-hour shifts, having deep conversations, and you can see the regret in people's eyes. Of the hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations I had with patients at the end. I mean, near their expiration date. It's just they had this laundry list of shoulda, woulda, couldas, and regretted that really truly they felt that they had pissed away this one gift called life that we were blessed with. And the number one regret on our deathbed is not living the life that we wanted out of fear of being rejected and criticized by others. So you get stuck in this trap. And I really think it's a critical book for anybody to go out there and for everybody to go out there and read. And I know too, as far as it was funny because I hired you initially, you started to consult me on recruiting, and we went to a whole different space. I mean, the recruiting grew tremendously, but I know for me one thing, and there's very few people you can talk about with this kind of stuff with, and a lot of entrepreneurs on this call might be able to relate, but you get to a level. With your self development, with your intensity in life, and where you are, man, like you're alone, like you don't know how to deal with society anymore, because everybody else is operating, from a place of trying to fit in, gossip conversations, doing all of this, and you get to a point where you're like, shit, dude, I'm all alone now. I don't know what to do. So then you kind of get in the pattern of being lost in your work. That becomes your new drug because you can't fit anywhere else. And that was one of the biggest things that you helped me out with, with that, with just going out there and kind of because we all, I mean, growth. We talk about growth. Well, do growth pains sometimes are worse than failure pains, right?
Absolutely. Well, and I think, one of the things that I want to touch on too, on the flip side back to you, Josh, is that, you know, I've gotten to know you real well. I've gotten to see you in the presence of your wife and your family. And, people don't see the whole picture. And it's, what's very interesting, and I've watched in posts where people want to question it. And the quality time, the respect, and I mean, you've got a marriage, you've got kids, you're not going through divorce, you're not out, you're not out in bars, you're not, doing the things that, I'm sorry, but a lot of normal people in our society do today. And so it's a matter of, I'm highly driven, I'm highly focused, I have high quality family time. I see the energy of you when you're in the presence of your wife. My COO and I sat there and watched that. I mean, all of these things are clipping away I mean, you can have a full experience of it because what I think it is that and I don't know, maybe I'm speaking for you, but this is what I've found in it, Josh, is that people say you work too much, and I go, it's not work. I go, what do you mean? It's life. What? It's life. Because if you take a look at my work is growing me as a human being. I'm learning every day. The way that I do my work is I'm learning more about me. I'm learning more how to interact with people. And when I learn more how to interact with people, it overflows into my life. And we're both in a business, and I think we all are if we really look at it. I don't care if you're the garbage man. I mean, we are all contributing to other people's lives. If you look at what you do, as both of us do, we've had the conversation. It's not a matter of this, when do you turn it off? When do you turn it on? You know what? I'm on 24/7. You're on 24/7. And you know what the on is? I'm inspired. I have a great love for the people that are around me that want to grow their lives. And the neat thing is my family members, as do your family members, who I've been the presence of, they experience the benefits of it. I mean, they do. It's not we're not two dudes that are abandoning our family, man. I mean, we're a couple guys that go hard, but you want to know what? We go just as hard and as intensely with our family, and that's one message that I just think that everyone needs to get as far as you're concerned, and I'm concerned too, because you can pull it off, because it's not, oh, the lines are blurred with work. Listen, we all with technology and with the ability to communicate and the freedom that's created, it's just life. It all contributes and it's all intertwined. And when you get that spot, I think people that want to separate it so much, well, they're the ones that, but I want my TV time and I want this time. Like, what? Let me tell you about the freedom you can have. But anyways, that rant is over. I just needed to share that.
No, man, and it's what 97% of our planet today lives and dies in mediocrity, and when I do hear, and believe me, we all hear it a lot, in any entrepreneur that grinds at a hard level, hears it from whether it's friends, sometimes our closest family members, just to observers, right, spectators, I should say, and I always tell people, like, okay, here's the reality of it. I got 168 hours in a week. I work my 80. Let's say I sleep 6 hours a night. That's 42 hours. I work out an hour a day for 7 hours. I do the math. That leaves me with 39 hours left in a week. I get all that done at 39, almost a full-time job left in a week. It's where I utilize that time that makes the difference. And am I going to use it in front of a freaking box that's going to pollute my mind? That's not going to achieve the outcome I want and help me create the lifestyle I want? Or am I going to invest that with that quality family time, with my self-development? So there's no such thing as I don't have enough time. It's just, how do you choose to utilize the time that you have? So it's, and here's the end of the day, dude. I mean, everybody's gonna have to sacrifice a certain amount of their life. That's what really entrepreneurship is. We talked about this when you were creating your software company, man. It is, you sacrifice several years of your life. If you're an entrepreneur here, and it happens all the time with consulting clients that I meet with, or in interviews and whatever it may be, that they think they can go out there and create this uber success working 40 hours, and I'm just like, it just isn't going to happen. I've yet to see it by anybody that's been self-made, that they sacrificed, they were obsessed for a portion of their life, then to go out there and live that amazing lifestyle. And kind of let's talk about that, bro, because your lifestyle, dude. And I know you never have an off button, but you operate these successful businesses, and you have, like, right now, you talked about the last 10 days, we open this, talk about how you've been in the air more than you've been on land, and you go through this, but you also make sure that you kind of recharge the batteries, so you have all these successful businesses, but I know you spend, at least a month out of the year in Hawaii. Then you spend a lot of time up in Tahoe and up and down the Pacific Northwest. And, a trap so many entrepreneurs get into is they're married to the office, that 100-hour grind, just married to it. So, I know it wasn't always this way, but how do you go from, okay, I got this successful business, like building this business that can someday serve your lifestyle instead of just taking from you, man, whether it's your energy, your lifestyle, building that a machine that truly gives back, which you've done.
Sure. Well, the irony of it too is I go to New York Sunday through Saturday. I come home for 4 days, and I'm headed back out to the island out to Hawaii for about 7 or 8 days. It comes back to what we talked about earlier, and trust equals capacity, and the ability to what I know, what every entrepreneur has a responsibility to do is first of all is, balance is this interesting term, and here's what I'd say to each and every one of you that are listening to this, define it the way that you want to define it. Don't define it based on the book. I mean, I talk about balance in my book, but that's my opinion. And like I said, have an open mind, but question everything. And everything's trial and error. Find what works for you. Balance isn't watching TV 1 hour a night and eating Cheetos, but, hey, if that's your choice, don't complain about things not going the way that you want them to, that happiness and freedom part of it. But the key piece is that I have put, what I do know is this, it's kind of interesting. There's two things that show up. See, I know to operate at my highest level, I need to be creative. See, if you look at the most successful people that have the greatest amount of happiness and freedom, and they're the smartest, but they're the most creative. And creativity for me doesn't happen in the crowds. And we talked about this. You were alluding to it earlier. I mean, here I am, a guy who gets in front of thousands of people, and I'm an extreme introvert. I do not go to social events. I don't go to, fancy restaurants. That's not my thing. I'm not into it. And it's, inspiration comes from people, but here's the problem with inspiration. Inspiration has judgment. To really grow, you've got to get away from the noise and get away from the programming, get away from the domestication, socialization of it. And so the nice thing is for me, in the amount of time that I took off, like I took, what was it, last year, the whole month of September, I went to Hawaii, and I'm going to pick a month this year and go there and certainly spend a lot of time in a lot of different places. For me to be at my highest level is to be self-serving. Society has told us this is, you need to serve other people first. No, that's wrong. That's a lie. And Josh and I talk about, sharing and serving. Yes, we do. But you want to know what? We are self-serving first. And I want to define that for everyone. I know to get to this point, what I had to do was pick the right people, take the risk, trust them so I could grow my capacity, and then as a responsible business owner, in case, you got to think, if you got a family, if something happened to me, and you know this, you work directly with my staff. Do you think anything would skip a beat, Josh, if I disappeared with my businesses?
No, I mean, I don't think I've ever had to contact you directly about it. Any of your businesses, man, they're on it.
No, I got people that work for me that are smarter than me. I mean, they're brilliant. And so that's the first step. Here's what, but I think to take that first step, what you've got to believe, though, is that you've got to step away. You've got to step out of the ring periodically to step back in it and be even better. And so it is just in my belief system, I need to be out. I get out in nature and explore things, get away from the, who am I going to Hawaii with? Me. Who was I, Lexi will fly out, my daughter sometimes, but, who was I in Hawaii with, for a month in September? Me. But that's my space, that's my time. And the interesting thing is it's all life, because I have experiences there, because everything is about human interaction. I have experiences that show up there that really resonate with the masses, with people. And I think today, it's bringing it back to the business side of it and the freedom of it. They go hand in hand, because people want to experience a deeper you today than just your skill sets. And to have a deeper you today, you've got to get away from it and clear your head. That's my opinion. That's what works for me, and at this phase in my life. And so, hire people that are smarter than you, hire people that you can trust, give them the reins. As I said earlier, reward failure. And the reward is going to be, they're going to self-discover from what didn't work and then recommit. And the reward for you is growing someone and trusting in the process, so that you don't have to keep churning through people. That's really where it's critical for me.
Yeah, man, and I think that we don't analyze it. A lot of people don't analyze it this way, but the importance of that recharge. It's going back to what you're talking about in the gym when you're hitting the weights. It's like you can't go in there and work out your biceps every single day. I mean, when you go in there, you're breaking down muscle tissue. It needs proper time, and nutrition to recover and rebuild bigger, thicker, stronger. Well, shit, dude, our minds, our bodies. I mean, we need the same thing. Well, we've got to kind of break away at some point so we can
Yeah.
go out there and operate at our highest capacity. So, um, no, I love it, man. Love it. So, just kind of a wacky off question here. I heard this, read this question the other day, and something I just kind of wanted to ask you. So, if your house was on fire, like if your house is on fire right now, and just with the full assumption that kids are out, dogs are out, like everybody else is out, so there's nobody else in there, just you. You had time with just your arms to grab whatever you could fit in your arms, whatever you could carry, and get out. What would you grab?
I grab one thing. It's a it's a 24-hour chip. It's the first chip I got the first day I went into Alcoholics Anonymous and got sober,
I love that, man.
because it's what I look at every single day. I'm driven by gratitude, period. And that's where the energy drives from. Every breath counts to me because I know where I was at. And if we can embrace, and it's what I've been taught, is embrace that space that we were in, remember where we were at. Because I think so many times people, when they experience, and success is such a broad term. Let me say this: when people experience happiness and freedom in life, when they had some times that weren't that happy, we get amnesia. Well, I don't want to have amnesia, and I don't want to depend on sources outside of me to drive me, whether it's a hater or someone says great things, because haters aren't going to be there every day, and the motivators ain't going to be there every day. Every day, the only person I'm left with is me. And so for me, that's that one piece. It reminds me where I was. It reminds me what shaped me. It reminds me that we all have our spaces, and it reminds me that I have a responsibility every single day to be an example, to serve people. And that's just my show of gratitude for the experience that I get to have every day in my life. So that's what I'd grab.
Awesome, man. Love it, love it. So, all right. So, knowing what you know now, like you got all the information that you know now, but you had to do it all over again. So, starting from scratch, little to no money. Like, let's just say something happened and you were totally wiped out. Bank accounts clean. All your companies wiped out. Like, you had to start from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge that you've gained, from all your experiences. What are the two or three immediate most important things you would do to rebuild, really rebuild this empire that you built?
Whew. I would go immediately to my inner circle of friends and it's a small circle. We've talked about that. I mean, I count them on one hand, people that I trust. One of the interesting, neat things that I've found is the most unconditional folks in my life. And I would go to them, and the first thing I would do is I would ask them to evaluate and give me their honest opinion. And the neat thing with my friends is that we operate in truth serum. You and I do. That's what works for us, and it'll serve a long-term relationship. I would go to them and say, okay, so you were always truthful with me along the way. Here I am in this spot. Be truthful with me today. What would you have done different if you were me? What would you observe about me? And what would you suggest that I do? Again, being open-minded while questioning everything. And questioning doesn't mean not trusting. Questioning means, okay, go out and take the action and see that it's not this blind faith type of thing. So that would be the number one thing that I would do, is get an absolute honest assessment. And I think from just that honest assessment from people, having enough experiences up until that point, if it happened, I say to people right now, hey, if everything went to hell in a handbasket tomorrow, I'd do an open house next Sunday. I mean, that's the simple one, I mean, that's an easy one. But I think the most important critical thing would be to go take the truth serum from the people that love me the most. And I want to define the people, and I hope this is a definition that everyone captures. The people that love me the most are the ones that are willing to be the most honest with me, the most brutally honest, and share their observations. That would be it. And that would, from that alone, I would be directed and get my answers of where to go next. Definitely.
Awesome, man. Love it, love it. So, you kind of talked about Real Recruiter being translated in multiple languages. You're expanding under this big global front. In addition to that, what's on the next for you, man? Anything else on the horizon for you?
Yeah, we wrote the book, and my ultimate objective is to take the book, Interrupt the Pattern, to the next level. We want to. I love the island. I mean, the ultimate objective and vision is to have a retreat center out there that serves all walks, but I think primarily CEOs, because the neat thing in working with a CEO, if I work with a CEO that's got 13,000 employees, I just have this opinion that I get to affect the lives of 13,000 people. through that person. And oh, but wait a minute, what if those 13,000 people work with 10 people apiece? Wow, I can have an effect on 130,000 people if I can affect change in a leader that then can affect change in an organization, and the organization goes out into the community. And so the ultimate objective is to take that work and expand on it, create a retreat center where we're serving people with from a spiritual, a physical, and a mindful space. So, all the way from educating people around nutrition, around fitness, in the spiritual space, and then also in business spaces. That is the ultimate vision, and the wish is that we all see each other out there on the island someday.
Yeah, I'll be there for sure, man. So I want to everybody. So we talked about John's book. We've talked about some of the software. So the book is absolutely for everybody. John's talked about multiple ways to go out there and order it. So don't wait, order it now. It's a must read. It's a quick read. Um, the software, anybody that is in the real estate industry that is recruiting. Said I've been on the software for the last year. It is the best system I've seen, hands down, for real estate recruiting, leadership training, and consulting, man. Coaching, consulting. Like I said, I've had the pleasure to be coached by John one on one, and still get consulted through his company today, and it's had such a positive, amazing impact on my life. So John, for our listeners that do want to reach out to you, because I highly recommend you guys do and take advantage of this. How if they are interested maybe in the Real Recruiter, some of your software, discussing further with some of the consulting, coaching, maybe they want you to come out to the organization, because you speak to not just real estate companies, but to every single organization that really has a culture that they need to develop leaders, which is really every single organization out there. So, if anybody's interested in that, maybe having you come out and speak to their company, or learning more about that, how can they reach you? Or maybe they just have a question. They're like, hey, I had this follow-up question that maybe Josh didn't think to ask or get to. They just have a question they want to reach out to. What's some different ways that they can get a hold of you?
Sure. Well, if they're interested in recruiting software, you can go to the Real Recruiter, REAL recruiter.com, and we've got a short 10-minute live demo they can check out. And they have further interest, and we'll contact them and take them through a full 1 hour demo of that program. Any speaking, coaching, or training type of stuff, you can go to cheplaklive.com, and I'd suggest anyone going to cheplaklive.com, because I've got a blog there with numerous 3 to 4 minute mini training videos that people can take in. You can go to interruptthepattern.com to check out my book. And then I can be, heck, you can text me, call me, 702-858-4992. I'll invite it. What the heck?
Yeah.
So there's no big ivory tower around me. I'm honored and privileged to do what I do, and the opportunity to connect with people it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So as we wind down here, any last words of advice for our listeners? If they're going to go out there and maybe do this one thing, take action on this one thing to really take it to the next level, and then their business to go out there and dominate their space in 2015, really create the life that they want. Any words, any last words of advice?
Sure. Yeah, what I would say is this: stop getting ready to get ready. You're never going to be ready. We're constantly becoming. What I would say is keep this thought with you as you pull away from this podcast and this recording, is that commitment will outperform talent any day of the week. Commit to something, declare it publicly, have a deadline, have someone check in and measure it. All the talent that you need will evolve naturally. Play and commitment.
Yeah. Awesome, brother. So you guys, I know I say this all the time at the end of our podcast here, but information without implementation is really just illusion. And you guys have just heard where we at right now, about 2 hours, 2 hours of, and I don't even know what that bill would be to hire you to come out to speak for 2 hours. And these guys are getting it 100% for free, from the top leadership coach on the planet. I mean, this guy he gets hired to speak by the top CEOs running organizations with 16,000, 30,000 people. So take this information to heart, implement it. Don't be like the masses out there that listen and do nothing with it. Go out there. It's all about implementation. Take down a few things right now that you start implementing immediately, and go out there and create that life that you want. And Jon, man, I can't thank you enough for being here. Greatly honor your time, dude. And man, this has been absolutely awesome.
Much love, brother, man. I love the work you're doing, man. Serving and inspiring people. Keep on doing your thing.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And you guys, again, go out there, crush it, dominate, and keep pushing. Thank you for listening. Do not forget to follow me on Facebook, Joshua Smith GSD, on Twitter, @Joshua Smith GSD, Instagram, Joshua Smith GSD. Make sure to also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Type in Joshua Smith, and I'm the good-looking cat at the top. If you haven't already, go to www.joshuasmithgsd.com and subscribe to our email list. You'll get these interviews sent to you via email, along with my blog, videos, updates, and all that other fun shit. As always, make sure you're taking action. Take all this golden information that you're getting delivered here and make sure you're applying it. Information without implementation is the start of delusion. So implement. Take massive levels of action. Get your hustle on. Get into GSD mode and go dominate. Peace out, guys, and see you next time.